Hey guys, am I as cool as Heimler? Nope. Am I as pretty as LaMoney? Not even close. I don't have the technology of a Khan Academy, but here I am breaking down a few things for you guys for the AP government test. I had an amazing student after school today, and we talked about some of the clauses of the Constitution. So, just a reminder, in the last video, I said, make sure you know the amendments, the articles of the Constitution. Take some time to focus in on the clauses as well. So I outlined in this really hard to see red marker some of those clauses. We have here the necessary and proper clause, also called the elastic clause, the commerce clause, the full faith and credit clause, the take care clause. And then we have ones we've talked about a lot, the due process clause and equal protection clause. There's also some compromises, the three-fifths compromise, for example. We could talk about those separately if you think you need some help with that as well. So, excuse me while I plug in my computer. When you hear the necessary and proper clause, you may often hear that called the elastic clause, right? So think, what does an elastic do? What does a rubber band or a hair tie or something do? It stretches, right? Your joggers, they stretch so that they still fit after you eat a Thanksgiving meal. So, what that does is it takes the implied powers of Congress and stretches them so that it says whatever is necessary and proper for you to create these laws, so to speak, you have the power to do that, right? So, because it deals with Congress and making laws, that's in Article 1. So, think of how it stretches the elastic implied. Those words sound like they go together, they start with vowels, right? That they go together. Commerce Clause is also in Article 1, so you know it deals with Congress once again, and it deals with laws, right? That commerce can regulate any laws that go basically between borders. So interstate business or trade, also between us and another nation. Um, know how that relates to US v. Lopez, right? And how that relates to federalism, right? Because over time, as the Commerce Clause is being used more and more and more and more, that showed in federalism a strength of that national government. Well, Congress can make this law because, hey, it falls under the Commerce Clause. And, US v. Lopez, the Supreme Court was like, not so, time out here, guys. Stay in your lane. Guns in schools are bad, but it is not commerce, right? So when the courts start to say, no, that doesn't fall under commerce, then you're trying to shrink back that federalism with the national government a little bit there as well. All right. Full faith and credit. That is Article 4. So what is Article 4? Let every judgy relative, so relations between the states, right? So basically, it's saying that each state is giving the other state full faith and credit. So that if they make a ruling or a decision, that it will be respected in that other state. If you get married or divorced in one state, the other state should recognize that, right? It can be about things more serious or not so serious, but it deals with interstate relations. A take care clause, Article 2. So we know that's the president. And that is the idea that the president will take care of the laws and fully execute them. Basically, the president will do his job, right? Even if they disagree with them. So many times presidents might not agree with the law, right? But their job is that they should still enforce it, right? Police officers might not always agree with certain laws that they have to enforce, but their job is to enforce it, right? Now, if a president doesn't like a law, he can say, hey, Congress, let's change this. Or maybe maybe it's something he can encourage the Supreme Court to, right? But mostly he would work with Congress. Like, we need a law to change this, but they should take care of executing the laws regardless. All right. Supremacy clause is that the Supreme Court, not Supreme Court, the Constitution rules supreme, right? So anything here in the Constitution like trumps any state law. Now remember, the 10th Amendment says, hey, if a law is not here, if a power is not here, the states have that power. But the supremacy clause says, this is still supreme, right? There's no like state law that could be more powerful and overrule something that the Constitution outlines. You know, but due process and equal protection, right? Um, Remember, I told you, a college professor told me last year, good luck explaining the difference between due process and equal protection, because everyone will give you a slightly different definition. And they sort of work together, right? Understand what incorporation is. Incorporation is when you take a federal right, and you say the states have to incorporate that as well. So Gideon Wainwright, right, the Fourth Amendment is incorporated down. The state of Florida had to respect that right as well, right? The states can't violate free speech, right? Just like the federal government can. So that in some ways is why these Reconstruction amendments, right? This is the 14th Amendment, was like a second revolution, because now it meant the states had to adhere to these rights and liberties as well. Okay, so due process and equal protection. The government has to protect your life, liberty, and property. And the state governments have to do so as well. Due process of the law. Equal protection is that just like the federal government, the state governments can't discriminate. Think of on basis of like race or gender, right? Or something like that. So for example, Brown v. Board, that was an example of equal protection because students in segregated schools, that was race-based discrimination. So the 14th Amendment said you can't do that. All right. If there's anything I'm missing, let me know. Know your Constitution. See you soon.